saludamos a los pueblos tradicionales de donde se reúnen hoy. Hoy ustedes tienen la posibilidad de platicar. Desafortunadamente, yo no puedo estar allá cara a cara para celebrar significante logro, pero que sé que tenemos muy buena representación. Les digo, por ejemplo, MIS, Lebre Garcia están ahí para hablar con ustedes y también Alessandro Santo, quien va a estar en línea en la celebración. 50 años de cooperación internacional entre IFLA y LAC, que es la parte de Latinoamérica, es un hito importante. Son 20 años también desde que tuvimos un congreso en Buenos Aires en el 2004 y 30 años desde que la federación se unió en La Habana en el 94. Tantas cosas que celebrar. La región LAC ha participado muy activamente, ha sido gran líder para la federación. El consejo, las divisiones son críticos para el trabajo de IFLA. Juegan un papel muy importante en cómo llevamos a cabo nuestros programas, trabajamos en la colaboración con todos los centros. En los próximos meses vienen las elecciones para la IFLA. Espero que muchas nominaciones vengan de la región LAC. Es importante que escuchemos a todas las regiones representadas en los comités en las regiones y el consejo directivo. Tal vez no lo sepan, pero LAC es la región más fuerte para las secciones. Entonces, les agradezco por su disposición de ser voluntarios y hacer el trabajo importante como líderes de IFLA. Yo, en mi presidencia, me siento fuertes como una asociación y que si nos seguimos uniendo, lograremos más cosas para las federaciones, las bibliotecas, para las comunidades a las que servimos. Como una federación, IFLA se basa en la creencia de que la colaboración internacional significa que los bibliotecarios, las bibliotecas y toda la gente, si nos unimos, podemos conseguir más juntos que separados. Hay muy buenos ejemplos de esto en la región LAC. Con la UNESCO, es su centro de promoción, la organización del Estado Iberoamericano, sobre todo el contexto de las mejores bibliotecas, han dado grandes ejemplos de ello. Gracias. La región también contribuye a las conversaciones mundiales. En mayo, los delegados del LAC representaron a IFLA en el cuarta reunión de las Naciones Unidas, de Naciones Emergentes, y ahí también una representación de el foro de alto nivel de las Naciones Unidas en Nueva York en julio. Gracias por habernos representado. Esta oportunidad también quiero aplaudir el trabajo que hace el Centro de Idiomas del Biblioteco de Congreso de Argentina, quienes han estado realizando consultas en español para la nueva estrategia de IFLA. Muchas gracias por su labor. Insto a toda la región LAC que siga haciendo ese trabajo y compartiendo con IFLA Internacional. Nos hemos beneficiado mucho de sus ideas, de sus materiales y realmente hay que hacer una gran diferencia. Las mejores prácticas de acceso abierto, de cómo pensar en biodiversidad y todos estos esfuerzos de red para incluir minorías, Latinoamérica ha sido vital. Les deseo que tengan un día de pláticas muy exitoso, que hagan mucho networking y que celebren mucho 50 años de la cooperación internacional. Y espero que me compartan todo lo que logran ustedes. Desde aquí les deseo un buen día. Vicky McDonald, thank you very much for that clip that she sent us. Now let us continue with the panel. And to start with this, we have Elizabeth Maria Ramos de Carvalho from Brazil, who's a librarian, archivist, professional, expert in data collection. She's been working in 1991, starting in 1991 in the work of archive of specialized matters, including legal matters. She was the former manager of the regional office of IFLA LAC from 1990 until 2011, and she was chairwoman of the Brazilian Documentation FEVAP organization, and she was president of the Federation of Librarian Workers, and for many years she was also coordinator of a consultancy project that specializes in technological matters, De Saber. As well as, well, she won the medal in 2010, the IFLA medal, and UNAM also presented her with an acknowledgement, as well as from the library regional office granted by the IFLA section. She has been awarded greatly. Is she ready? Is she available? Elizabeth, are you there? Fala, Beto.
Olá. Sim, estão me ouvindo, por favor? Alô?
E muitas graças.
Sim, em primeiro lugar, me gostaria de dizer que é um honor e prazer
It is
receber.
an honor and a pleasure.
Alô? Estão me ouvindo?
Se ve la voz de ella en el...
Sim. Em primeiro lugar, me gostaria de dizer que é um honor haver sido invitada por IIBI da UNAM e também pelo FAIF e pela sessão de IFLAC para participar do Mexico Information Global Forum, MEXINFO, por tema Inícios de LAC em IFLA, 50 anos de LAC. Cabe destacar que há mais de 40 anos que trabalho no movimento associativo, onde estive 23 anos a cargo da oficina regional de IFLA para a América Latina e o Caribe, considerando que o uso de informação é um benefício para toda a sociedade. Realizávamos nosso trabalho barro dos princípios de cooperação mútua e buscávamos experiências já desenvolvidas, racionalizando o uso dos recursos e da cooperação, assim como introduzindo as novas tecnologias da informação e da comunicação. Sempre fomos conscientes da informação, se considera um recurso a cada instituição nacional ou internacional, e deve ser interpretada como provedora e consumidora dentro de cada município, estado, região ou país. Gostaria também de assinalar que foi uma tarefa extremamente difícil cobrir essa história de 50 anos de falar que em só 15 minutos. Para conceitualizar, eu não vou falar sobre IFLA, amiga. Eu não vou falar sobre IFLA e vou me ater mais como funcionamos com atividades regionais. Então, teníamos um comitê profissional, uma divisão de atividades regionais, uma junta coordenadora que fazia parte do comitê assessor do programa LP, que vou falar depois, sessões regionais de LAC, África, Ásia e Oceânia, e as oficinas regionais, junto com o comitê permanente, gerente regional e comitê permanente, teríamos um presidente, um secretário e uns membros. Hoje, invitei 2 pessoas para estarem aqui presentes ao meu lado, porque estou com problema de saúde na família. Então, chamei Maria Isabel Franca, que foi chair de IFRALAC, e Elisete Mello, que foi assessora também da oficina regional. Então, se eu tiver alguma necessidade de me afastar temprano, elas poderão cobrir a minha ausência. O que é a oficina regional era uma extensão permanente da IFLA na região. Ela publicava e distribuía, conforme vocês viram, explanado pela chair da IFLAC, o IFLAC Notícias, em espanhol e inglês. Mantinha um clearinghouse com documentos da IFLA, identificava os projetos de interesse a serem desenvolvidos na região, Fundação Programa LP, depois Fundação Bill Melinda Gates e outras atividades fundamentais de IFLA, divulgava becas, fundos e concursos de interesse da região. Aí vocês vão ver, nessa linha do tempo, desde a criação de IFLA, LAC, que foi em 74, 79, então tivemos a criação da oficina regional na Venezuela, e depois vemos o andamento, a oficina regional vindo para o Brasil em 90, os congressos realizados até o ano de 2011, que a oficina regional foi para a UNAM, no México, e depois nós outros colaboramos também na organização dos 40 anos da sessão em São Paulo, Brasil. Bom, alguns pontos que eu gostaria de esclarecer era que, após a criação de 74, em 76, da criação da divisão regional, em 77 foi presidente Adolfo Rodrigues, e depois, então, tivemos um plano de trabalho para 1980, 1981, que é definido o plano de ação de IFLA na América Latina e Caribe, para lograr uma maior representação e participação dos países da região nas atividades da federação. Quero destacar o período da presidência de 1985 a 1991, de Hans-Peter G., que foi um dos maiores motivadores para a entrada da América Latina e o Caribe dentro da IFLA, colaborando melhor e fazendo conhecer nosso trabalho. Em 1987, tivemos um seminário extremamente importante, que é um seminário realizado em Caracas, das associações de bibliotecários. E, nesse seminário, depois tivemos um congresso brasileiro no Nordeste do Brasil, em que contamos com a colaboração do Russell Bolden, que estava com um projeto de Model Library, e uma associação brasileira de Minas Gerais foi escolhida para ser como modelo de associações. E o importante dizer que nosso presidente daquela época, Antônio Gabriel, que foi quem me motivou realmente a entrar para o movimento associativo, tinha se baseado em toda a organização da IFLA para desenhar, modernizar na Federação Brasileira de Associações de Bibliotecários, a FEBAB. Bom, um aspecto importante que acho que temos que rememorar em relação à língua espanhola, que ter sido reconhecida como língua oficial da IFLA. E também outro aspecto que não vou me deter, porque já foi falado pela presidenta da IFLA, que são Libraries in Heart e também a Sociedade de Informação, uma participação muito grande da América Latina e do Caribe. Em 2004, temos um evento muito importante, que foi criada uma federação internacional centro-americana de associações de colégios bibliotecários da América Central, FECEAB. Então, isso foi muito importante, porque a América Central não conseguia praticamente participar. Contamos com um trabalho muito ativo do Vitor Torres, que é de Porto Rico, que auxiliou muito na criação dessa federação, lá, e tivemos um encontro em El Salvador. Em 2004, tivemos o nosso congresso pela primeira vez realizado na América do Sul, já tínhamos tido anteriormente o realizado em Cuba, e depois tivemos outro em Porto Rico. Em 2005, tivemos a UISES, que é a conferência regional também aqui, preparatória para a segunda fase da Cúpula Mundial sobre Sociedade da Informação, e que participamos também com o trabalho que aconteceu aqui no Rio de Janeiro. Tivemos também diversos seminários sul-americanos de manifesto e diretriz da IFUNESCO para bibliotecas públicas escolares. Por favor. Em 2007, recebemos a visita da... Espera aí. Perdão. Em 2007, recebemos a visita da presidente da IFLA, Cláudia Lux, no Brasil. Tivemos um seminário muito importante, internacional, de genealogia e histórias locais, desafios para bibliotecas no Brasil. Em 2009, então, comemoramos no Peru, em Lima, o 35º aniversário da IFLAC e 30º ano da oficina regional. Tivemos o apoio de nossa colega, membro do Comitê Permanente, Doris Samanês, que muito colaborou para que realizássemos com êxito essa festa. Em 2010, tivemos a visita a Haiti da presidente Ellen Tassi. Em 2011, tivemos, então, uma instalação da operação da Oficina Regional de IFLAC na UNAM. Em 77...
Não, 77 não.
Durante a 77ª Conferência Geral de Porto Rico, foi em 2011. Então, agora queria falar um pouco... Sim, em 2013, Ingrid Parent visitou o Brasil, teria visitado em 2011 o México, e que tive assim a honra de receber também uma homenagem da UNAM, me concedendo aí uma medalha, e que sou muito grata e guardo com extremo carinho. Então, Ingrid Parent voltou ao Brasil, voltou à nossa região, voltou ao Brasil em Porto Alegre, no sul do Brasil, Santa Catarina, perdão, num congresso da FEBAB, e onde tivemos um workshop sobre advocacy enorme, e que, inclusive, contamos com alguns representantes, inclusive, do Cone Sul. Nesse workshop, nós contamos com todas as associações e comissões brasileiras que fazem parte da FEBAB, de todos os conselhos regionais que fazem parte do Conselho Federal e dos sindicatos de bibliotecários de todo o Brasil. Foi um workshop extremamente exitoso e com a presença, inclusive, de Ingrid Parent, presidente da IFLA. Em 2014, tivemos algumas reuniões com limitações de sessões de direitos de autor no México, e em 2014 tivemos um taller de BCLA durante uma reunião intermédia do Comitê Permanente de IFLA, que foi comemorado os 40 anos da sessão e 35 anos do Regional Office.
Em São Paulo.
Em São Paulo. Agora vou falar um pouquinho sobre a oficina regional. A primeira gerente foi Rosário Orovitch, que teve um trabalho extremamente importante, foi de 79 a 87, era da Venezuela. Contou como secretária Lucila Jiménez, de Colômbia, e Clara Budin, que vivia naquela ocasião em Venezuela, e depois foi ao Chile, e sempre fazendo um excelente trabalho como bibliotecária da América Latina e do Caribe. E, finalmente, de 90 a 2011, eu passei a ser gerente da oficina regional, contando em São Paulo com Ivone Thalon e Meybrook Negrão, Ivone como secretária e Meybrook Negrão como assessora, e depois que trouxemos para o Rio de Janeiro, no ano 2000, então contamos com Estela Maris Fernandes, da Argentina, que era uma assessora que foi extremamente importante para mim, porque você sabe que eu hablo portunhol e não espanhol, e ela fazia todas as traduções para o espanhol como voluntária. Tem um carinho muito especial e gostaria de fazer uma homenagem realmente à Estela, que foi assim uma peça-chave para a nossa oficina regional. Contamos sempre com a Elisete Mello, que está aqui presente hoje conosco, como assessora, e a secretária Marli Soler e Cátia Oliveira, que cuidava do Cleaning House, que, infelizmente, já não se encontram com nós outros, assim como Estela Maris.
Nossa Senhora, peraí.
Sempre as atividades da IFLA, elas se baseavam no desenvolvimento de personal e das associações profissionais, no desenvolvimento da biblioteca e dos serviços de informação, no fomento da alfabetização informacional e na cooperação das atividades fundamentais de divisões de sessões com IFLA. Agora, vou falar um pouco sobre os projetos desenvolvidos junto com a LP. Nós outros...
Fala primeiro o que é a LP. Né?
O programa LP. Creio que tivemos muitos projetos LP exitosos em nossa região lá, que vocês estão vendo nesse mapa, que praticamente quase todos os países de América Latina e de Caribe foram contemplados ou na reunião, ou com algum projeto, ou com algum encontro, ou participação de algum membro, sempre em alguma comemoração. Então, foi isso muito importante, porque praticamente a nossa região era totalmente desconhecida da IFLA, com poucos participantes. E temos ainda que esclarecer que não tivemos uma participação maior como membros, porque na IFLA não pagava as passagens para assistir às conferências da IFLA mundiais e, em geral, nas instituições não tinham dinheiro para mandar seus bibliotecários. Mas, de qualquer maneira, fizemos um esforço sobrenatural, conseguíamos financiamento para nós outros mandarmos bibliotecários e sempre estávamos sendo, dentro desse, como vem no mapa, uma participação ativa de todos os países da América Latina e do Caribe. Agora, gostaria de falar um pouco sobre os projetos da LP, que era um programa desenvolvido e disse que foi implantado quando a oficina regional veio para o Brasil. Então, tivemos a sorte de poder contar com esse suporte que a IFLA nos dava. Tivemos alguns talheres, alguns projetos importantes que gostaria de nomear. O primeiro deles foi ferramentas para apresentação de projetos LP. O objetivo do projeto era capacitar os bibliotecários da região para apresentar projeto à IFLA e a outras instituições de financiamento. A maioria dos bibliotecários não sabia apresentar projetos. Outro projeto importante foi pontos de empréstimo de livros em mercados, que se ha estendido a 5 países. Começou no Chile e depois se estendeu com isso ao Peru, Bolívia, Argentina e Brasil. Infobila, que não vou falar, porque nossa querida Estela Morales vai falar sobre isso, e também nos seminários, nos manifestos de Unesco, que vamos contar com a colaboração do nosso apreciado Felipe Martins. Seminários dos países de língua portuguesa. Isso foi muito importante, que brindaram a oportunidade de compartilhar e fazer acordos entre Brasil, Portugal e com os países lusófonos da África, Angola, Moçambique, Porto Príncipe, Cabo Verde, Guiné-Bissau e Timor-Leste, porque a língua nos aproximava muito mais do que a seção propriamente da África. Então, foram projetos muito interessantes que tivemos seminários em Portugal, tivemos em Moçambique, tivemos no Brasil. E o outro, empoderamento das associações de bibliotecas.
Isso tem 3 minutos.
E a parte de leituras, e também teríamos treinamento de bibliotecas e bibliotecas públicas. Bom, tivemos sempre logrado as necessidades da região. Vamos correr, então, porque já que temos 3 minutos, é muito pouco tempo. Passa, por favor. Bom, os logos vocês já viram que nós instituímos, o clearing house que nós mantínhamos. Não vou falar sobre a parte de marketing, mas quero falar um pouquinho sobre o newsletter. Nós outros começamos antes do advento dos microcomputadores. Então, realmente, foi um trabalho muito importante, muito apreciado na nossa região, e nós divulgamos e mantínhamos esse serviço e mandávamos por correio e falávamos por telefone. Nossa situação foi um pouco complicada, mas exitosa. Então, nós tínhamos assim... E a parte da comunicação, que nós não tínhamos como hoje, a internet e outras ferramentas aí desenvolvidas. A sessão de pôsteres, que sempre participamos, vai a outra. Os nossos 2 grandes trabalhos, que eu acho que foram importantes, foi o diretório das associações de bibliotecários, e também nós outros publicamos um Who's Who de toda a seção da América Latina e do Caribe até 2014. Essas são algumas pessoas que nós temos assim, agradecimentos especiais, que não posso agora, não tenho tempo para fazer, o secretário, os presidentes que fizeram parte da IFLA, o pessoal da LP, as medalhas daqueles que receberam, que foi Rosa Maria, do México, Marta Terry, de Cuba, Adolfo Rodrigues, também do México, Giocomo, em 2010, e Filiberto Martins, em 2022. Não contamos com Virginia Betancourt e outros. Homenagens de memória de amigos que sempre trabalharam com nós outros, pode passar. Esses eram os congressos, isso aí foram as pessoas que trabalharam no Governing Board, que davam sempre maior visibilidade à nossa região, e alguns pontos relevantes, por exemplo, que foi as alianças com o FAIF nos manifestos, e também com o PAC, que nós conseguimos criar núcleos para o PAC, núcleos do PAC, só na nossa região nós criamos na Venezuela, em Trinidad e Tobago e no Brasil, e atendíamos com eles todos os países da região. Então, isso foi muito interessante e muito importante. Fizemos também um convênio muito importante com o Centro Regional para o Fomento do Livro América Latina. Passa o resto. Escudo Azul, instituições...
Ya se acabó el tiempo.
Queria agradecer e dizer que a gestão se realiza com pessoas e instituições. Muitas graças.
Deixa eu botar agora aqui para a gente. Vamos ver o que ela fez.
Nem foi isso que tinha que falar. Vou ter mais funcionários com atividades regionais. Então, teríamos um comitê profissional da divisão das atividades regionais. Isso, paga
was worked with the support from our university, the National Autonomous University of Mexico. I have called this INFOBILA, Information and Library Science in Latin America. The presentation based on this database with information and library science in Latin America was a pioneer. And the approach I'm going to give is a historical approach. I'm going to highlight the collective work to achieve useful products output based on a project that convinced certain international organizations and first of all convinced the UNAM University and the Research Center in Library Sciences, today called IIBI. This approach between colleagues and between countries was very important to get to know firsthand the local issues in information and dissemination, which becomes a regional and global issue. These dialogues were very important to give a form to INFOBILA, since it was a group of distinguished colleagues that worked in terms of the region and the presence of weed in our region. You saw this participated more. Adolfo Rodriguez was there. Both of us started this work of INFOBILA. In 1985, the IIBI database became efficient with a project that started earlier with a goal of recording and making retrievable the data on information science, library science, documentation, and archives and other sciences that have emerged recently, produced in and about Latin America and the Caribbean, first of all. Based on this collection, we started to work with a pilot project, with a collection that was being formed in IIBI, known as the Bibliographic Fund of Latin America and the Caribbean. And based on this, we started to carry out tests and models. So, we have to, in those days, we have to refer to the history of this time with this project. Because I can see a lot of young people here. It wasn't the current panorama that we had in 1985. It was, computation was starting, and it was something that we were using as support because IIBI saw an essential aspect of its work as including technology. At that time, our libraries and schools and research were highlighted, but we didn't have an optimal development like in the USA and Europe. The few journals that we had didn't have international circulation and had another problem. They did not respect punctuality because they didn't have enough support. Anyway, we created this database, and there was echo about this initiative in most of the countries. For the contents, certain general criteria were approved, like documents dealing on Latin America and the Caribbean, regardless of the nationality of the author. And the other was work by librarians, regardless of where it was published. We followed the norms of those times, that we received support on the OMAR format, plus the describers that were considered to be necessary in order for this project to be launched. Also the softwares, we started with one software, then we changed it to another because it was the one that was being used at the UNAM. It was made in Mexico, and it was giving us all the services that we needed. Thus, we created the technical aspect of this database. The human group the team that participated in IIBI has been very expensive depending on times. Representatives of the initial countries, because we were in communication with some of the countries that started, were very important at the beginning because they helped to define several aspects regarding content and techniques for the norms and assistance to facilitate the compilation of information, their norms of searching and retrieving information. Here, there was participation. We have to appreciate that because this provided us with the opportunity to take into account the specificities of our different countries. Latin America, we're all similar countries, but we're not the same. So each country has its own personality. On that occasion, we were being supported by Rocio Herrera from Colombia, Antonio Miranda from Brazil, Maria Bonilla from Peru, Emilio Septién from Cuba, Sarai Cordova from Costa Rica, Hector Gomez from Chile, and all the team coming from IIBI in Mexico. With improvement of the database in IIBI in March 2005, the authorities who were organized the IIBI seminar attended by many of the participant countries. And once reading the memoirs of the seminar, something that was highlighted is that the content of this database would be very useful for the practice of libraries and the services and any other similar information provided. I clarified this because at the beginning it was defined for education and for research, but now in that seminar, we included other facets that need to be included. In the first decade of the 21st century, some concepts and paradigms of library science were updated and modified, and we looked beyond libraries. Therefore, the services had to be offered through the mass media that were used by youth and most of our libraries. The university libraries above all, but there is also a task of the public libraries. This implies that we updated the project in as much as we updated the supply of information, and we had more technologies available and involved in our discipline. The materials that were included are monographies, articles, theses, dissertations, periodical presentations, memoirs, book chapters, and working documents, working papers. Based on the creation of IIBI in 1985, the directors of IIBI would acquire the responsibility of heading the project with support of a team of technicals and academics that came in and out of the group. Since then, the world changed. And the fields that we were analyzing, education, research, and the practice of libraries, had an impact on all the areas of life and directly had an impact on our areas of study and work. So I reiterate that technology then and today is essential for these kind of projects. So we were always adjusting and updating ourselves, and all these different technological assistance that we received. The raison d'etre of MEXINFO was to be a collective project that would allow individual benefits, a project with all the assistance of the countries that would send information to us. But this was and is for the use of any professional interested in this. What would it be of use for? For many things: to facilitate exchange of information, to communicate between professionals of the region, and also to acquire knowledge about how the colleagues in the region see the discipline and the profession, to be able to see or choose a technique or a methodology that would be of use to a neighbor with the same environment and similar characteristics, in order to learn about data that weaken or strengthen the region. This is the current idea that we have, but it's the digital library, an option to facilitate exchange and usefulness and to demonstrate the quality that these materials have, and also to know the knowledge produced in the region and the different approaches they have. In the current times, it's very important to see everything that is regulated and legislated regarding the right to information, which is something that will be reflected in documents that are part of IIBI. This right to information has different linchpins of action, considering infodiversity that disseminates the existence of all the information that human beings generate, regardless of their political affiliation, religion, race, or any other individuality. This allows us to have a great wealth of knowledge that facilitates the interaction in this plural, diverse, inclusive world in which we're currently living. Unfortunately, in the last decade, we faced some issues with IIBI, some carelessness, some mistakes, and some technical issues that hindered our continuing to feed this database. It didn't die completely, but it was partially ill, so to speak. So we stopped obtaining these benefits. And what I can say is that as of this current time, and here we have the director that left, but she committed herself to again support intensely this IIBI project, and we're organizing how to work, cashing in on what we have, capitalizing on what we have, and how to project it towards the future. The first stage was interrupted, and we're starting a new stage in which a multidisciplinary team is integrated that is specialized in the themes that we required. Changes have been made in software, some rules have also been changed. We're updating them because we have a team, and Dr. Martinez is here, who is an expert in these topics, and taking as a foundation the technical guidelines of GDP regarding the technology, the directives of here, and the subsistence of libraries that she coordinates. So now, for example, we're using the core software because we're using the library system, and we are interested in being connected to them, as well as some technical rules that are necessary to be able to exchange information. We hope that in this second stage of IIBI, that it will be useful to seek information, apart from getting to know the bibliographic information of the region, production of the region, where we can identify studies on content. What are the authors that are specializing in different topics in their sector? In which journals do they publish? What topics and areas of knowledge do the authors report? What topics are not treated in depth in Latin America and which areas would be necessary to address, what countries have a stronger research team. If we have answers to these questions and others, we will have elements to value and plan regional development in an indirect way. We will have a panorama of the strengths and weaknesses as a region and a sector. As you can see, this InfoVilla project has many challenges to update and be a useful source of information added to the other efforts that are carried out in our institute. We just want to appreciate the supports that we received by IFLA. IFLA was a very important factor, IFLA, to launch this project and to appreciate all the participant countries, and of course, great appreciation to our university, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, and our institute, and to all the people who have collaborated in this project. Thank you deeply. Thank you very much, Dr. Morales, for this trajectory of this important project that has to be located in the 80s with all the technology of those times and a historical moment to all these historical links that were strengthening between IFA and Latin America and the Caribbean. And what seems very important for us is to see from the keynote conference of Dr. Lebron how we're recognizing, acknowledging all the people that throughout these 50 years of history of IFLA in Latin America and the Caribbean. To continue the program, it's a turn of Dr. Filiberto Felipe Martínez Arellano, a researcher at the Technological Institute at UNAM, who's had a lengthy trajectory within IFLA, being secretary of the region, and from 2007 to 2011, president of the Latin American Caribbean division, and also president of the region of Africa, Oceania, and Latin America, coordinator of the group of interest on library education in developing countries, as well as member of the strengthening group of library education, among many other achievements. And he's also been acknowledged with the IFLA Medal 2022 with the development of cataloging, open access, and strengthening of competences of librarians in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you very much, Dr. Martínez Arellano. Please. Can you support me with a PowerPoint presentation, please? Good morning to everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to sharing with you the work projects that were developed in the section of Latin America and the Caribbean together with FAIRE during my presidency of this section. It was 3 different lines of basic collaboration that I will be referring to. One of them is the manifesto, the Internet Manifesto 2, access to information regarding HIV/AIDS through libraries and the strengthening of the library associations. We all know that the IFLA Manifesto emerged in 2002 and that there was a new edition, a second version in 2014. And now we're facing a third version that was passed recently. Since the appearance of this manifesto, the section was deeply concerned to disseminate it through a series of activities in the different countries in the region. One of these, I'll give a very quick review of them, was a seminar in Central America regarding the IFLA seminars for school and public libraries and the internet in 2007, held in Costa Rica, where representatives from all these countries were invited. We consider that this seminar was important specifically for the public library systems, and in 2007, the Center of Library Sciences Research, together with Nakulda, organized a seminar titled the UNESCO Manifesto on the Internet, where we had the participation of representatives of FIFE in those days, the representatives of those days of FIFE. There we can see Paul Esturga, Barbara Jones, and we can also see Dorinda Garcia with her hair of a different color. Also, there were representatives of public libraries of Mexico in order to try to disseminate this manifesto in the 7,000 public libraries of this country. We had support from the Direction of Libraries led by Dr. Federico Hernandez in those days. Another workshop that we had was the IFLA 5 workshop of training instructors in Lima, Peru. The idea of this seminar, of this workshop, was to bring together representatives from different places, different municipalities, different states of Peru, in order to disseminate this material. We started to train the training of trainers so they could go and disseminate this manifesto. I had the opportunity of participating in this workshop together with Elizabeth de Carvalho. It was held in Lima, Peru. In the background, you can see the Station of Knowledge. It is a train which was adapted as a library, as a public library, to provide services to people, elderly people, because we considered that it was a group that was starting to use internet in those times. Afterwards, we continued promoting the manifesto, the Internet Manifesto, in 2007, 2008, and 2009 through different activities in the different countries in Latin America. Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, among others. There's a very extensive list. I'm just going to give relevant points of the places where congresses, conferences, and seminars were held. First of all, in Mexico, we were also in Quito, Ecuador, in 2 events. In Bogota, Colombia, we held another event, which was the seminar of the IFLA Manifesto on the Internet. Another meeting was in 2008. The National Autonomous University of Mexico, an event was held here. And we started to work also with the manifesto, with the material, information around HIV/AIDS. This took place. We had a first seminar in Lima, Peru in March 2009. In Santiago de Chile, we organized a meeting regarding school libraries and the Internet Manifesto. And again, in Lima, Peru, in 2009, we had another seminar on this manifesto. I think that it is important to continue with this series of activities, specifically today, in which the new version of a manifesto has another content adapted, adjusted to the current situation. And besides, the public libraries will always have the responsibility to enable access to information to the community as a whole, to all the communities, actually. And in the face of the changes that we're facing today in our societies, this is an aspect that is highly germane, that we need to continue organizing through workshops, seminars, and so on to promote the manifesto. In Mexico, we requested permission to publish the guidelines and manifestos in 2007, and this was distributed to the 7,000 public libraries in Mexico for all the librarians working there, because we considered important. I want to highlight that the librarians needed to know this, because if they didn't know it directly, they couldn't do their work properly. I will step into another aspect now. Access to information regarding HIV/AIDS through libraries. In the year 2005, 6, and 7, at the beginning of the century, the situation regarding the prevalence of this disease was very critical. Therefore, IIBI committee launched this program in order to libraries to disseminate access to information regarding this disease. How did we work with this program? This program was worked with through a manual, a handbook that was developed in June 2007 in Dubai. And the participants were a group of people from different countries, from different cultures, representatives of India, Brazil, South Africa, Japan, the USA, Ghana, the United Kingdom, Mexico, Germany, and the Arab Emirates, to generate a handbook that could be used in libraries throughout the world in order to establish some actions in order to prevent this disease in those days. As a result of this, we generated 2 training handbooks based on the same philosophy of training trainers, so they could go to libraries to disseminate these materials, both in English and in Spanish. In IIBI and Latin America and the different regions, we considered that it was necessary to disseminate this information among attendants to public libraries as preventive measures, and also as a series of measures to be followed for those who had been detected to have HIV. Regarding this, we organized a Latin American seminar of medical information libraries that was the librarian and access to information to prevent HIV/AIDS in 2008, jointly with the Graduate School of Medicine of our university, UNAM. The purpose there was to get to know the work that libraries, of the medical libraries, carried out in Latin America to identify sources of information so that the workers in these libraries, as well as the public libraries, could implement a program tending to the prevention and measures regarding this disease. We had the participation in this conference of a whole series of representatives from different countries: Guatemala, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Argentina, Honduras, Peru, Cuba, Colombia, and Brazil as well. And as a result, we generated the publication that includes the works of the representatives of these different libraries. This seminar and this publication was coordinated by Alejandra Martinez, who in those days was a member of the IIBI committee, who collaborated with this and many other activities held by IIBI. a workshop was organized, and we had the collaboration in translating materials together with FIFE. There's a whole series of materials that were translated, and in March 2010, FIFE acknowledged, through this publication, acknowledged the Regional Office for Latin America and the language centers in Russia, Egypt, Senegal, for the translation of all these materials. Likewise, it received a special mention. The National Autonomous University of Mexico received a special mention for its collaboration in the translation of these kind of materials through 3 different institutions of UNAM: the General Direction of Libraries, secondly, the University Center of Library Science Research, and in the case of the specialized materials, the faculty of the Graduate School of Medicine. These materials are available. Some of them should be updated because for me, it was very difficult to find a web page and to retrieve these documents. So the program of library associations is another program we worked on. This emerged in a meeting held in The Hague in 2010, The Hague, where this program was conceived through a manual, handbook. Ana Maria Talavera was present there to generate this manual, this handbook. Ayame was present there as well. The then president of IFLA was present too, as well as other individuals. This handbook comprises 5 basic modules of how the library associations should function, how to create library associations, how to sustain these associations, the development of strategic relationships, and fundraising, which is very important for library associations and for the libraries themselves as part of the agenda. Continuing with the topic of the president of those times, Claudia Lux. In order to test that workshop, we chose 6 different libraries from different places of the world: Botswana, Cameroon, Peru, Botswana, and Ukraine. And in Latin America, it was Peru who was chosen. And after that, this workshop was replicated in different places. It was replicated in Brazil, in El Salvador as well, in order to revitalize the association, the Central American Association of Libraries. In Panama, we also carried out another regional meeting which was attended by representatives of 17 different countries from different Latin American regions. In Panama, the last workshop was held in which I participated. And finally, I think that there is also here a task that is pending. The associations need to be strengthened. Some of them have had relevant points, others have decayed, and we have to work again on an ongoing basis with these associations, and also making reference to the access of information. Although right now, AIDS is no longer a disease that has the relevance that it had at the beginning of the century, there are other diseases that have emerged. The last one we suffered was the COVID pandemic, where librarians, specifically in public libraries, have a great responsibility to disseminate information regarding all kinds of diseases and to prevent promote the health of all the citizens and individuals that go to these public libraries. I appreciate your attention to this synthesis of the activities carried out during these 3 different areas, together with FIFE and together with the section of associations of librarians. I think that it was difficult to summarize all this information in 15 minutes, all the work that we carried out throughout many years, in which we had the intervention of many different individuals from different countries. In each one of the countries where we carried out a meeting, the librarians of that country, of those countries, they invested all their enthusiasm and efforts so that the activities would have great success. Well, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Dr. Martinez, for this journey through some of the activities that FIFE carried out throughout this period that was very fruitful, and that has also allowed us to carry out other actions, more actions. And briefly, I will say that in the seminar of artificial intelligence, we'll have a conference with Maria Dreifuset, who will give us an introduction to the update of the Internet manifesto. This will be a launching of the update of the manifesto that was put online yesterday, I think. So do come. Well, now we will step into Dr. Ana Maria Talavera, who works for the Pontifical University Catholic Cathedral in Peru. She's the Magister in Library Science at the Sheffield University with a PhD at the Texas University. She's a former dean of the College of Librarians in 2007, 2008, and 2011, and representative of Peru on the permanent seminar of the IFLA, which he chaired in 2008, and a trainer of IFLA in the IFLA programs of Building Strong Library Associations of the Advocacy Committee. Please, Dr. Talavera, good morning to everybody. Good afternoon, I don't know. Thank you very much, Jonathan and Libby, for inviting me. And, well, I don't have a PowerPoint presentation because I didn't have enough time to prepare it, but picking up what Felipe mentioned regarding the BCLA programs in 2010, I was directly engaged with all the work of IFLA, although I had attended some conferences in Buenos Aires, Quebec, etc. of IFLA. So, as he mentioned, Peru was the only country in Latin America that was chosen among the group of 6 countries for the first stage of this program of Building Strong Library Associations. Starting with the translation materials, the version into Spanish from Spain and Latin America, the PowerPoints and so on, we had a lot of work to do with Filiberto to be able to give the training courses of training the trainers, and to start with this cascade methodology, to start with a small group of possible trainers and to expand this more and more. We gave some courses, both in Peru and in Colombia, and then we had the meeting that he already mentioned in Panama prior to the IFLA Congress in Puerto Rico, which was 3 days earlier. Elizabeth Carvalho also mentioned it, and there were 12 Latin American countries present there. It was the first group meeting, because before it had been done on a country basis. Then in Manila, the Philippines, in Berlin, in February 2012, we had the first global meeting of the whole BCLA program in all the countries that initially started, and we started to work with the impact report. What had been the result of all this work? The promoter that held this project mentioned Fiona Bradley, who was the one who visited all the countries and worked intensely. A second stage of a BCLA program took place in 2013 with funding of the Gates Foundation. And we had the meeting in Sao Paulo in March 2014 to expand the number of trainers. And then we continued with other programs, especially the development of Module 5 that Filiberto mentioned, called Libraries on the Agenda. We were not talking about the Agenda 2030, but we talked about placing libraries on the agendas of the countries, especially in the development plans of each country. And thus, there were small projects in those times, Central America, Colombia, Argentina, and some joint projects. After this, there was a kind of general meeting that was very important in Panama in 2016, where together with the Association of MLAS, the acronym in English, of the management of library associations throughout the world, where we had the participation of different presenters of different areas of the world, giving very specific examples and cases regarding the Latin American countries. All the Latin Americans benefited from this, from seeing how library associations were working, especially in Europe, but also in other areas of the world. And in June 2016, ends of May, beginning of June, we had a general meeting in Manila, the Philippines. First, it was in Panama in March, April, and in June, that was a meeting of all the regions, Africa, Asia, Oceania, Latin America, the Caribbean. The chair then was Suelin Ferreira from Brazil, and we had the participation of Marisol, who's here too, from Colombia, and participation of Brazil and Peru as well. This implied not to the total end of BCLA, but the expansion of Module 5, which was advocacy specifically. Again, we had the problem of translation. BCLA had translations like the creation of strong libraries, of solid libraries. Then we decided the best title was to strengthen the library associations. In the case of EAP, the International Advocacy Program, we don't have a word in Spanish for advocacy. And in many cases, the literal translation was defense, but we wanted to say promotion and defense, which is what advocacy comprises. So we left it as that, promotion and defense. And we started to work with this program. As I said, in the time that I was engaged here, it has been not in specific programs for Latin America, but global programs that throughout these